All right, Steve, we're recording this January 16th. It is still very, very early in the year.
It is.
But I have to say that I think that last week, upon receiving some very bad news,
Yeah.
my wife might have delivered the dunk of the year already, because I really don't see us getting past this.
Okay.
And this is honestly so stone cold. This might need to be edited out. I don't even know, because it's just fucking chilling. But I'm just, I'm just passing on what she said.
All right.
Because it did
ready.
cut like a knife. So last week we got the very unfortunate news, of course, about our man Dr. Dre, right? Dr.
Yes.
Dre's in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I was scrolling through some social media, and I was just like, oh my God, holy shit. I was like, Dr. Dre is in the hospital, and he's had a brain aneurysm. And without any hesitation or anything like that, Kate immediately says, oh my God, do you think he's going to forget about Dre? That's dunk of the decade.
Oh, Dre. I can't wait, though, for him to come back with a diss rap on Kate.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be cold.
This is going to be awesome.
Cold.
This is going to be like East Coast versus West Coast, so she's heating up the rivalry. I see.
Bringing it back. Welcome, dead and lovely listeners, to the greatest horror movie review podcast that money can't buy because it's free. You ain't buying this. You can't buy me.
Nope. Unless you, spend $5 on the Patreon. Then you can kind of buy, sort of. Us.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. We are purchasable in some ways.
Yes. In increments. Yes.
It's dead and lovely, here with the host with the most. It's me, your boy, Uncle Ben.
It's me, your other boy, Hollywood Steve.
Oh, man. And I'll tell you what. Man, what a week it's been. What a week it has been, Steve.
Yeah, it's been
one hell of a fucking week.
Yep. So, there was an attempted coup on the United States.
Yeah.
Instigated by Donald Trump and several other GOP politicians who apparently some led tours in the days leading up to the coup of the Capitol building, showing some of those people around.
That's great news.
Yeah.
It's really not good news. Steve, the entire thing that I've been going to all week is I'm really having a hard time articulating my thoughts on what's going on here, because it is seriously trying to explain to people well, the sky is blue and what goes up must come down, and this was very bad. I really am having a hard time even putting together words, because it's just how could you not see that this is bad?
Watching the mental twisting that has gone on with actually it's Antifa. It's totally Antifa who's doing it. And watching all these people who thought they were patriots see people calling them Antifa and disavowing them immediately. When they did the
really
thing that they were all planning for months leading up to the event.
Yeah.
We have all of your fucking tweets and shit about it. We've seen them. You dumb fucks. You're not twisting anything. We know what you did.
There you go. That's the bottom line, because Stone Cold Steve says so. It's nuts, and it really is one of those things that is wild to think that, the last time that we recorded, the thing that we were kind of up in arms about is Mitch McConnell wants to send out $600 checks. What a dick. It's little did we know, a week later, a real-life attempted coup was going to be happening on the Capitol building.
Yeah, it was
Holy
a wild
smokes.
week, man. Wild week.
Yeah.
Also, unfortunately, a couple days after that, my grandfather-in-law passed.
Woo.
Great man. Very smart man.
Yeah.
I always loved being around him. He was a charming, funny guy. It's a shame it wasn't a surprise, but it is a shame, because it always sucks to lose a good person.
It's been a hell of a week overall, man. It really, really has been. It's interesting, and I'll tell you this too, man. I realize how fortunate of a position you and I are in, that we don't have to go work on the front lines or be greatly exposed.
My wife does.
Sure, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Luckily, she has been vaccinated. She's received both of her vaccine shots, and it's I think it's 2 weeks after you receive your second one. is when they say that you're fully in the clear. So she's almost in the clear, which like alleviates 70% of my anxiety for 5 minutes at a time.
Yay! So we'll call it good news. We'll call that good news.
Good news. Yeah.
Yep. I'm glad that you and I are safe and sound, and I hope that our listeners are as well during this
Stay safe as you
trying
can.
time. These trying times.
Very trying.
Lord of mercy, dude. But, I've had a little bit of time this week to take in some pelliculas and have a good time of my own here and there. And if you just want to get right to the movie review, by the way, there's a timestamp for that. There's a timestamp for that in the podcast description. Lord, I swear, like, every now and then we get reviews from people that are like, they talk before the movie so long, blah, blah, blah. It's like, we tell you there's a timestamp. There's one on every episode.
Listen, I've done this rant before, and I'll do it again right now. I just don't understand what you're looking for in a podcast. What is it you want? You want us to tell you what the movie's about and say what we thought about it in the end? A podcast is not just that. A podcast is about the personalities behind it, right?
Yeah, exactly. These bubbly, glowing personalities.
I'm sure there are podcasts out there that provide that. We're just not offering that. That is not on offer. So if your review is they didn't offer me the thing I wanted, that's kind of on you, dummy.
We can
like
give
you
you a
don't
refund.
go to the store and buy a Mounds wanting a Snickers and then go, fucking Mounds doesn't taste like Snickers.
And we do offer 100% money back guarantees on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
there's
you
also
can eat
that.
shit on the way out.
Jesus, coming in hot. Holy moly.
I'm a little hot today.
Coming in way hot. Steve, what you been watching this week, man? Anything good?
Yes, something very, very, very good. The Boys.
Ooh, The Boys. I've heard that's awesome.
The Boys. It's so good, man. I love it so much. And super excited for whatever happens in season 3.
That's like a superhero show, but they're not like name brand superheroes, right?
Yeah. So it's kind of, I mean, it was I think maybe a Vertigo or a Dark Horse comic. I don't remember. But it's kind of Justice League esque. But like, you got characters similar to, say, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. But it's a world where these superheroes exist, and they are a part of a corporation. So
okay.
like it's a lot about branding and likability and things like that, way more than like actually fighting crime, which it's a great, awesome, wonderful satire of both Marvel and DC Comics and the MCU and just the concept of a Superman, basically, like what that means to the world and to everyone around him. It's pretty like deep in that sense of like getting into comics. So if you're into comics, you're going to get so much out of it, just so many things that you'll recognize as sort of like, satire or homage to beloved comic characters and things, but also politically deep, like especially the second season.
Damn, man. I just think it's incredible that they're doing the impossible and, creating something out of heroes that haven't been flogged since the 1930s.
Right. Yeah.
That's impossible.
This is a comic series that started in 2006. So
no, you can't entertain people with new things
and fun and entertaining without history that people are going to get so pissed about everything changing, because it is there's some significant differences from the books. So, but man, check it out. It's on Amazon.
Nice,
well
man.
Worth a watch.
Show-wise, I've been watching through The Sopranos again. We kind of took a break through the holidays.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm back on that shit, and just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
That famous Sopranos line.
Yeah, exactly. We're almost done with the 5th season, which means that we're coming up on the last season. And I remember people saying, like, oh, yeah, the last season or two is no good. I've really enjoyed it. There's been some insane stuff that's happened.
I think
so.
I
don't know.
I've heard people say they didn't like the finale, but it's weird to not like the final season at all.
I don't know, man. It's been awesome, so I've been enjoying that. What else you been on?
Oh, well, just leading up to this, I watched several movies related to this. I watched the 1931 Frankenstein and the 1935 Bride of Frankenstein.
Ooh, I'm such a fucking hack. I've never seen either one of them, man. I'm a fucking poser.
Guess what? Just as we speak, Universal is adding to they have like a horror YouTube channel. They've uploaded a lot of the original Universal monster movies. Yeah, so you can go watch them if you got the time.
Well, that explains why, leading up to this episode, I tried to find the OG Frankenstein and stuff to watch, and they weren't available anywhere.
Yeah, it's not streaming anywhere, but now it is. It's on YouTube, so go check it out.
Now I got no fucking excuse, man. Are they good? Like, are they good watches?
Yeah. Yes, they are. They are good watches, and they're short. I watched them back to back, actually, and it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes total.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, they're good. They're beautifully shot. It's a gorgeous, couple of gorgeous movies. The stories deviate from the books a bit, which is good because it's, new stuff, especially the second one. The second one is, they finish the first one before they create The Bride of Frankenstein, which is just part of the book, that normally would have been a part of the story. So then the second one, they had to create a bunch of story, which brings in the carry of Dr. Pretorius, who is the most interesting character. Those are worth watching for sure.
All right, then. Maybe I'll have to scope that out on the old YouTube, as our Red Coat listeners say. YouTube.
On YouTube. I also watched a bunch of Mel Brooks movies.
Nice.
Because, watching this was just I love Mel Brooks. So I wanted to, because the ones I've seen the most probably are this, Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, and Spaceballs.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, rewatch those. And I did, and then I was like, well, I haven't seen The Producers in forever. So I watched The Producers, by the way, still genius.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then I watched Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Love
still
it.
Funny, though a lot of dated 90s references.
Extremely.
Yeah. And then I also, Emily and I started Dracula Dead and loving it, but I haven't finished it yet. But that's funnier than its Rotten Tomatoes score would lead you to believe. So check it out if you've never watched it, because it got bad reviews.
I have not seen it, but now I shall.
It's got Leslie Nielsen. So
I like that.
That's
a great
awesome.
start.
What have you been watching, man?
Man, we've been up to a couple, 2, 3 different things this week. One night, we felt like having ourselves a laugh because society was kind of crumbling there for a little while.
Yeah, same.
So we went looking for some good stand-up on the Netflix, and we watched Taylor Tomlinson's stand-up special called Quarter Life Crisis. She's a young lady what's got a joke or two up her sleeve. It was actually really fucking funny, man. I'd never heard of her, but the preview seemed funny. And sure enough, it was a barrel of laughs. Definitely enjoy that. And then I think maybe a day or two after that, we decided we need to have the best night ever. So, of course, we got pizza from Adopo Pizza in downtown Knoxville. We came home and we watched a little motherfucking film called Face Off.
Awesome.
It was the right move. It was the right move in every possible way. You have yourself a bottle of red wine, you have some good pizza, and you watch Face Off with the one that you love, and you're gonna have a good time. Guaranteed.
That is true.
That movie
is insane.
Fucking nutty. It is wild. It's
Nick Cage
so
and
ridiculous.
John Travolta are both crazy in it. I mean, Nick Cage, you expect it, but John Travolta also just went goofy.
Yeah, and then you get to see them act as each other.
As each other, yeah, that's just genius.
Oh
that's
my god.
That's just that is 90s excess at its best, I think. Where it was just action movies started leading to what we have now with the Fast and the Furious movies, where it's just oh, of course it's fucking ridiculous. Obviously this shit couldn't happen. Who gives a fuck? It's fun.
Yeah, totally, man. It's kind of got my mind veering towards a lot of those other huge mega action movies that came out around that same time, like The Rock and Con Air and all that stuff.
Great and crazy.
Oh my god. Do you have a favorite among that group of flicks?
The Rock's great.
Yeah, is that your favorite one?
Absolutely great. I would say of those three, yeah, The Rock is my favorite. Though they're all a fun watch. Con Air is just insane.
Oh my
what
God,
in
dude.
the hell was happening in the 90s? Man. I mean, I love it. I love that we have that, but it just is so inexplicable to me that there was a time when the world was just comical. Like everything was just ridiculous. And then 9/11 happened, and then it was like, oh, it's all dark and shitty now.
Yeah, that's true. There was kind of like this ridiculousness bubble that was just like growing over the 90s, where it's just like, SUVs are cool. What if there was a Ford Excursion that's the size of a semi-truck?
Yeah.
Stuff got nuts in the 90s.
It did. Man, yeah, it's those are great though. I haven't seen any of them in a while.
If you're gonna like snub your nose at that stuff and act like you're above it and not have a good time while you're watching Nicolas Cage be like, I want you to take his face off.
I get it.
Like,
I
come
get
on.
it. Honestly,
That's fun.
I get it if you can't get into Nick Cage, because he is enigmatic. Like he is not instantly likable for everybody, but the people that like him love him.
Oh, yeah. Although I will say it is looking less and less impressive as time goes by about him, stealing the Declaration of Independence. I actually think that would be really easy now.
Yeah, probably pretty simple, right?
He's the right color to do it, at least, so he shouldn't have any trouble.
Easily get away with it would seem.
So, yeah, that was a good time right there. And then we decided to kind of shift things up and change the mood a little bit. And, continue watching through some of those movies that we heard about in 2020 that were supposed to be so good that we never got around to. We watched I'm Thinking of Ending Things, the newest Charlie Kaufman movie.
Yeah, I need to get to that.
Man, you like Charlie Kaufman?
I do. I love how he shoves everything up its own ass.
That he does. I think that this is probably the best one that he's done since he did... Shoot, what was the name of that other one? You got to help me out here. It was the one that was like really existential with weird narrative changes. It had stuff about
that one?
Memory and timelines getting mixed up and stuff. And
okay, right.
You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
into
the
that
best one that he's done since that.
Sounds like maybe adaptation. Could be.
No,
could be.
I don't think it's that one. No. Dude, it's really, really great. It is heavy. It's fucking heavy, of course. I mean, if you're watching a Charlie Kaufman movie, you kind of know that getting into it, but it really is very interesting and very beautiful with some really great acting and stuff in it, some unusual choices. Like, there's this thread of Oklahoma, like the musical, that runs through the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's just a strange-ass choice to put in there.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I would definitely recommend it. I thought that it was really cool.
It's got that Jessie Buckley in it, the redhead.
Yeah.
She's in Fargo season 4, who plays the best character in the entire season.
I hadn't seen her in anything else, but like whenever I saw her on screen, I was like, man, this chick is amazing.
Yeah, she's great. She's so compelling. And yeah, Fargo season 4, she is just, it's amazing. Good God. I loved every second she was on screen because she's just so in the character.
Nice, man.
Perfectly does it. So yeah, I'll need to check that out. It's on my queue, and I keep looking at it, and that's what happens every time I think about it. I'm like, it's pretty much a Charlie Kaufman movie, I'm going to assume.
Yeah, it's a mood,
am I
man.
in the mood for that?
That's the thing, right? Because you also got to look at the clock and be like, do I have time to watch Airplane or Naked Gun or something after this to make reality normal again?
Yeah, and also, man, there's some real problems in the world, Yeah. There's shit to really be pondering. Maybe not interested in that right now. But, yeah, I'm going to get to it.
Yeah,
I do like Charlie
sometime. Again, it's one of those movies to watch when you're just feeling a little too good.
I'm too happy today.
Need to knock myself down a few pegs.
Yeah.
And then I had 2 nights in a row where apparently my mood was, I want to watch stuff that involves metal and horror. So I watched 2 flicks that I'd heard about. One I'd been hearing about for a long time. A lot of people recommended that I check it out. They said it'd be right up my alley. I watched the New Zealand horror comedy Deathgasm.
Right. Okay, I've started this before. I maybe got about halfway through it, I think.
Yeah. What happened about halfway through that you didn't finish it?
I had not found it entertaining up to that point, so I turned it off because I don't care about turning the movie off.
It's not real good. Like, I really didn't enjoy it that much. Like, it really felt like a 14-year-old that was really into metal wrote a movie. Like, it just felt very underdeveloped in a lot of ways. And I know I'm talking about a fucking, horror metal movie being underdeveloped. Yeah, I know. I see the irony in what I'm even saying, but it just kind of felt a little bit weak to me. It was pretty much just Evil Dead. Like, the story of it's basically just Evil Dead, but with metal.
Yeah. And it also, the thing, I remember now that Emily and I had watched Todd in the Book of Pure Evil, which is a great Canadian horror comedy show, around that time, and it was funnier and did the metal horror thing better.
Well, maybe that's next on my list.
Yeah, try it. Yeah, it's like 2 seasons, I think, or maybe just 1, but worth watching. I mean, it's cheesy, but also, like, if you like Supernatural, you'll definitely like
Todd
cool. versus Todd in the Book of Pure Evil. But it's funny and fun. But yeah, I think that was it. I was watching it and I was like, yeah, Todd in the Book of Pure Evil did this better. I'm not interested in finishing this.
Deathgasm did have some really fun practical effects and kills in it. Like, there was a huge Peter Jackson influence in it, a very big, like, Dead Alive influence. Yeah. So it was pretty cool. I think my favorite part of the movie, actually the part of the movie I thought was the coolest, is a better way to say it, is like at the very end, I sent you a photo of this, at the very end of the movie, he wakes up in his room and he's got like all these like posters and records and stuff of metal bands on the wall, one of them being the self-titled Whitechapel album, and I was like, hey, I played on that album.
That is true. You did.
Yeah, I got 2 guitar solos on there. But I figure that's probably the closest that I've come to being in a horror movie, so that was kind of fun. That was cool.
Well, there was that one time that you were in that you were a meth addict. That's kind of a horror movie.
That's true. That's true. It's a commercial, but still, I think it still kind of counts, you know?
Kind of counts, yeah.
And then the next day, I watched one that some people have been talking about, like on our Facebook group and stuff like that, and I know some other friends of mine checked it out and told me I should give it a watch. I watched Uncle Peckerhead, which you also watched, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you watched it and passed along the recommendation.
Yeah, and I had myself a darn good time. It was just a real treat of a movie. Did you enjoy it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Had a great time watching it. Very fun. Loved Uncle Peckerhead himself. Want him to be my uncle.
Dude, I'm going to tell you this, man. I don't know how much time you've spent around Blackie Rose, a.k.a. the bass player for Skankbanger.
Not much.
Dude, this is part of why I like the movie so much. I swear, Blackie Rose has somebody following him around.
That is Uncle Peckerhead?
Dude, no. I mean, that wrote the character of Uncle Peckerhead based around Blackie. Like,
oh, okay.
All of his lines in the movie, I'm like, that's just stuff that Blackie says all the time. And even the way that he talks, like his kind of slow drawl that he has, is exactly the way that Blackie talks.
That's awesome.
It is wild, man.
That's
like
amazing.
It's so spot on. Like I was laughing at everything that he said because I'm like, that's just Blackie Rose stuff. So fucking good. But also the thing that I liked about it a lot, and this is stuff that we touched on with Green Room and stuff too, I think this movie did a good job of really summing up what touring life is like in a non-gigantic band where you're sleeping in the van and you're like trying to take advantage of every time that you can take a shower or take a shit in a bathroom and being confused about what day it is anymore. And dude, I swear to God, man, that other band, the Super Pompous band that they play some shows with, I have played with that band. Like, there's one particular guy in Knoxville that I'm thinking of that is that guy.
Oh, boy.
He is that guy. And he's fucking intolerable. Yeah, it was a fun watch. And again, some really cool gore and some really funny shit in there too.
Yeah,
definitely
I enjoyed
it. Yeah,
yeah, it was fun. Yeah, the gore was good too. It really just like hit on all levels. So I highly recommend go check that out.
Me too. I'll tell you what, I liked it so much. I'd like to throw a beer in my face to it. You want to do that? Just toss one in. What are you having today, Steve?
Did you have this on the show? It is an Untitled Art. This several different things that are blanking out shit just got serious.
Or is it this stout just got serious?
Oh, this stout. Oh, is that what it is?
I mean,
yes,
maybe.
that is very much what it is. This stout just got serious, but they spelled it to make it look kind of like it might be shit, but it's not. Anyway, it's an imperial stout with cocoa nibs, caramel, and milk sugar.
Dude.
And I can smell it from here, and it smells like a chocolate cake.
I'm telling you what, man, that beer, which is unsurprising from Untitled Art because that place just makes amazing stuff. Yeah. That beer that you hold in your mitts right now is truly a sacred object. Mm-hmm. If you've ever just dreamt about, like, whenever your mom would let you lick the cake batter spoon, the chocolate cake spoon, and you're like, what if this also had booze in it? I was always thinking about that as a child, you know? So was Dahmer. We all know
put some booze in it, Mom.
Put some booze in that cake mix. You're about to find out what that would be like because that is the chocolate cakiest beer I have ever had. It is a delight. I think that you're going to enjoy it very much, man. And it's also got a lot of alcohol.
11? It's 11%.
Holy moly, man.
I'm super excited for this. What you drinking on, Ben?
I have in my hand a Sunlab Brewery. A different buzz, and that's with a bunch of Z's at the end. It's a hazy.
Because it's got honey in it?
Yep. Hazy India Pale Ale brewed with Citra, Kazbek, Sorachi Ace, and it's also got honey and orange zest in it. So hopefully it'll be pretty good. It's a pint, and it is 7%. I'm going to crack this thing open. He's cracking that big red boy down.
Yeah, let me get a sip on this here.
I predict that's going to make a big toe shoot up in your boot. What do you think about that?
Immediately, it is amazing. The second it hits your tongue, it tastes like chocolate cake with salted caramel, which is like, I am obsessed now with salt going along with most of my desserts.
Dude, I'm telling you.
Everything better.
For fucking real, man. That's one of those things that I'm like, why did we sit on this so long?
Yeah, why did this take so long to figure out? We had the salt.
It was right there all along. Dude, it's so so rich, but at the same time,
very rich. I could not have more than one of these.
Oh yeah, you'd be under the couch if you had more than one of them for sure. But I feel like the booziness also kind of levels out the sweetness a little bit.
Yeah, it's nice. It's like it does have that boozy tinge on the back end. But it's like, it's not overpowering at all, even though it's 11%.
Dude, this Sunlab is really good. I was kind of worried with the orange zest and the honey in there that it would be too sweet.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Very nicely balanced. I don't really taste that much of the honey. You do get the orange zest, and it's just like a nice, bright, kind of crisp flavor on the end right there. That's very, very good. Very smooth. It's like really hazy. A little bit foamy, a little bit of that pineapple-y flavor to it as well. I enjoy it very much, man.
That sounds awesome.
I'll have to log this into my daily liquor log. I've still been doing good on my 2-drink-a-day liquor log, and I think if I can make it through last week and keep it real like that, it means I'm doing okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. I drank a good bit after the coup and the grandfather-in-law dying. There was a good bit of drinking. Emily had almost a whole week off for bereavement and stuff, so we just sat around, watched the boys, and drank.
I could think of worse things to do, honestly.
It was good commiserating type of thing because it, in the end, it was like, all right, I feel better.
Yeah, I get that, man. And I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I've definitely had my moments this week that have been tough. And I don't mean to bring this up to like bring the podcast down or anything like that. I don't want anybody like getting bummed out because I'm talking about this. But
we are talking about a Mel Brooks movie. But
yeah, totally. But I think it's just important to know too that like because I know a lot of people, especially going on a year of this shit, are really struggling with the mopes. You know, they're getting depressed. People have been depressed for like a year now.
Yes.
I get it, and I just think it's important for you guys to know that. Even the people that you listen to, your entertainers, your YouTubers, whatever it is that you watch, we're going through it too, you know? Because it kind of struck me the other day where I was like, man, I've had a few days this week where I've been like really mopey, where I've kind of been in my feelings, been a little bit depressed feeling and stuff. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I'm not due for another bad spell for a couple of months usually. But it kind of hit me where I was like, oh, it's because for the past like decade almost, right after Christmas is when I'm gearing up for NAMM and cruise shows.
Oh.
And I've also happened to have a couple little tours and one-off shows. I had that Florida show and then the VGM Con last year and stuff too. Usually January, February, March is like super busy for me. So it's like coming off of the holidays.
You don't
it's
have
just
time
like,
to get depressed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly the case, because a lot of times in my entire life, coming out of Christmas and stuff is always kind of a time where I'd get a little bit depressed because it's like, oh, the holidays are over. Now it's just January and it's cold. That's it.
Got to be a tough one, because like that is a lot of activity, and while it's a whole lot of work, it's also fun and adventurous and new stuff happening, and now it's just sitting in your apartment.
Yeah, totally, man.
Yeah.
So I realize that, this is as first world of a complaint as humanly possible.
Right,
I don't get to go to L.A. and play on a big boat. Poor me. Like, come on, guys. I have very little to complain about, but I just want you guys to know that, like, even your entertainers, whatever you want to call us, influencers, I hate that word. But, even your people that you listen to and stuff every week, we're all going through it, man. We're all going through it in one way or another. So if you feel like you're going through it alone, yeah, exactly. Hang out on the Facebook group, hit us up, chat with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
All that stuff, man, because we're all going through the same shit.
Yeah, I try to respond to any messages or anything pretty quickly. If you need somebody to talk to, reach out. I'd rather you not be sad.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it right there. So, yep. Weird year, man. But you know what, Steve? We're not here just to bitch and complain and drink code beer and talk about other movies. We're here to talk about one movie that we're going to talk about after this other part of the show.
That was great. I loved that. People will be very clear on what is happening.
Exactly right. I thought so. I put some thought into that one. I'm a bit of a wordsmith myself.
Yep.
We're talking about Young Frankenstein today, which is, of course, a treasure produced for the human race by the great Mel Brooks, who, come on, man, if you don't like Mel Brooks, you might be a redneck.
No, rednecks love Mel Brooks.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Do they? Wait. Okay, my introduction to Mel Brooks was through my grandfather, and my whole family loves Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
But I just realized I don't know if that is a Southern thing. I mean, I know you also, and your wife, and my wife. So maybe it is a pretty common Southern thing to love Mel Brooks.
I don't know. Could be. Who knows? But of course, that guy has made more amazing movies than just one. He's made a whole bunch. And I bet if we put our minds to it as we enter into the preview palace.
Welcome to the preview palace.
Is that Towley?
Nope. I just wanted to go super high. I don't know what I was going for there, but that was it.
How about we step on into that preview palace and we give these bustas our personal top 3 favorite Mel Brooks movies. There's so many to choose from. They all seem to have a similar thread running through them. His style of comedy is extremely unique and very identifiable, and I think you could probably snip 5 seconds out of any of these movies and you'd be like, oh yeah, this is a Mel Brooks movie for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And you could probably edit together a separate Mel Brooks movie, just taking parts from each of the movies, and it would still be hilarious.
Oh yeah,
because like he has so many running jokes that go into several of his movies and stuff. It's the man had a very particular style, and it just tickles my funny bone.
Oh yeah, man. But before we kind of make the list and stuff like that, I want to clarify. Have you seen all of his movies? Because there's still a handful I have not either.
I haven't seen High Anxiety, and I haven't seen Silent Movie.
Okay, so I have like that box set that has all of them, so this is kind of giving me like an excuse to go through and watch them. I've not watched The 12 Chairs, which I've heard him say is the best movie that he's ever made. That's the one that he likes the most, apparently.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it in a long time. I wanted to try to watch all of them before, but obviously that didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't seen it in a long time. I would like to rewatch that one. But Silent Movie, I know, spoof of silent movies, and then High Anxiety, spoof of Hitchcock movies. So, yeah.
I want to say I've seen High Anxiety one time a while back, and I have not seen Silent Movie. So, again, I've still got some catching up to do, but I know the rest of these, whether it be History of the World or Spaceballs or any of these,
so great.
I've seen all of those fucking 100 times each.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen those movies so fucking many times, and I know you have as well, so I'm interested to hear what you're going to rank as your top three. I bet we have some overlap. I bet
they're the same three movies, probably.
They might be. They might be. I think the middle one might be different. What are you starting off your number three with?
My number three is Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, me too.
No.
Yep,
okay.
That's my number three.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I think a lot of people would put Young Frankenstein as their number one, and I get that.
Yeah.
It is genius. It's hilarious, and it sticks out in a way that a lot of his others don't. In being black and white, in really like having a lot of filmic nods, like filmmaking nods to the 1930s movies, not just like, he does it in Spaceballs a good bit with the wipes or whatever, but it mostly just feels like a Mel Brooks movie, whereas this feels like this could have been a 1930s movie. It's also funny,
Oh, yeah. I think it was a long time into watching Young Frankenstein many times over that I realized it wasn't that old, and that he had made a lot of other movies before it that were like in color and not, this very dated feel intentionally.
Yeah.
I think I just assumed it was one of his oldest movies. I totally had no idea of that. But it's like you said, this is a lot of people's absolute favorite. I know my friend Phil Sandifer, this is his favorite Mel Brooks movie.
It's hilarious.
Oh, yeah,
we'll talk about it more, obviously, this is what the episode's about. But yeah, we love Young Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
What's
Undeniable,
your number two, though, Ben? That's where we're going to get interested.
I think so, because my number two, and this is hard, man, because it was like I was thinking about History of the World. I was thinking about Spaceballs, but the one that I just kept coming back to is Robin Hood Men in Tights.
It's so funny.
I know that's kind of a low-ranking one to some people. I know a lot of people are just like, oh, it's just so stupid and it's so dated. And I'm like, no, it's so stupid and it's so dated, and that's why I like it.
Yeah, it really captures that moment in time when you watch it. If you watched it as a kid, when you watch it now, you just go back to that moment. You remember all that stuff, and it's like you feel very in that moment. I understand completely.
Yeah, it totally gives me the same vibe that I get whenever I watch, like, let's say Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. That's, I've said on the show before, like, that's one of my favorite, like, sick day movies where it's just like, just have it on, it'll make you laugh and make you feel better. That's the way that Men in Tights is for me, too, where there's just so many fucking silly things in there. I have a mole.
Yeah, it's one of those running jokes too. It's like with the hump as well in this. He always has these very specific type of jokes that it's almost like interchangeable, but they still hit every time.
Oh yeah, and I absolutely love the dude who like talks all fucked up the whole movie, and he's like, he did to kill the king's dad.
Yes, yeah, that guy is so funny.
Oh,
yeah,
he's great, man. And then of course you got Latrine in there.
Latrine used to be shit house. It's a good change.
It's a good change. God, it's so funny, man. And yeah, the way that it just absolutely mocks Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Yeah. Which needed to be mocked.
Like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But at the same time, it's not even like shitting all over. Like, this is a bad movie. Let's make fun of it. It's this fine line of like homage and yet poking fun at it. Exactly like Young Frankenstein is.
Yep. Yeah. And we'll talk more about Mel Brooks' style of humor and why that is that, like, he gently pokes fun at things and it never feels like, oh, he hates this thing. It's always like, oh, he loves this thing so much that he's able to find the things you can poke fun at.
Yeah, it's almost very like Weird Al in a way, where you're like, I don't think that Weird Al hates Nirvana, and that's why he made Smells Like Nirvana. Yeah. It's not that way, and I get that out of Mel Brooks's movies a lot of times too. So yeah, Men in Tights, and of course Dave Chappelle. I mean, you can just go on and on for how fucking good that movie is, man. What's your number two, though?
My number two is The Producers.
Rewatching
it made me realize like how fucking funny it is, but also how relevant it still is.
Yeah.
It's great, man. I just loved it. I love the guy who plays Hitler in the play. Like,
he's amazing.
It's just so like ridiculous. And obviously Taika Waititi was doing some of that in what was the name of that where he
Jojo
played
Rabbit?
Hitler? Jojo Rabbit, yes. Jojo Rabbit obviously having a more bittersweet tone, and The Producers just having this absurd, ridiculous tone. I really enjoyed it. And I think there are a couple jokes that I would say are a little dated, though I don't know that anything in there would be considered offensive. It's just that the joke doesn't hit anymore. Like the joke that someone is gay, like that's just not. There's no joke to that.
Right.
But I mean, the kind of camp gay character from the late 60s through the 70s and even into the 80s, because, you know, they have one in Airplane as well. I guess it continues into the 90s. That camp gay character, like, was so played out. But in the 60s, it was actually kind of like, hey, look, this is a gay person. Like, gay people exist.
Yeah.
So I don't think you know, that hits as much anymore, but it's also just like, well, at the time he was doing something.
Right. A great cast in that movie and stuff too.
Absolutely. So good. Gene Wilder, of course. Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Fucking amazing, dude. Yeah. Really, really hilarious. I need to watch that again. It's been a while since I saw it, actually.
Watch it again. The guy who plays the inspector in this plays the Nazi guy who wrote the play, who is just ridiculous.
Oh, shit. I don't think I realized that. Inspector Kemp?
Yeah. Uh-huh. It's so fucking funny.
Awesome, man. Good one. Good one.
Yeah. What is your number 2, Ben? Our number 1, Ben.
My number uno. God damn, dude. Like, to me, filling out the 2 and 3 was hard, but deciding on number 1 is fucking easy. Blazing Saddles. Blazing Saddles is
we agree
immortally hilarious. Is that your number 1 as well?
Absolutely. I watched it. While watching it, I had to pause several times because I was laughing too hard and couldn't hear the jokes I knew that were going to make me laugh even harder.
Yep. Dude.
It's so funny.
So fucking funny. And I feel like every time I watch it, because I tend to watch it once every maybe 2 years or so, something like that.
Yeah.
Every time I rewatch it, I'm like, I forgot how fucking funny this movie is.
Yeah.
It is hysterical.
The part where the sheriff holds himself hostage.
Yeah.
is so goddamn funny. It's got just like looking back on it, it obviously is the movie that you would think, oh, there's no way this aged well, right? It addressed race in 1974.
Yeah.
And you go back and you go, Mel Brooks addressed race in 1974 on a level that needs to be around still. We still need to be talking about race on this level the way he was looking at it, because he was trying to show people, like, you're being fucking ridiculous.
That's the thing, right? Like, I see people all the time that are just like, oh, you couldn't show Blazing Saddles now, you couldn't make that movie now because of all the racial stuff in it. And I feel like they're missing the point, though. Like,
yeah, absolutely, they're missing the point.
Yeah, because, like, you know, whenever our, you know, redneck families and uncles and stuff like that would make racial jokes, there was hate behind it.
Hate, yes.
You know, not good intentions whatsoever. But I feel like whenever Mel Brooks, especially in Blazing Saddles, was making all this racial commentary, it was to show you how stupid the racists are.
Yes, absolutely.
It's
the
never
racists
portraying them in a good light.
Always the enemies throughout it. Yeah, it's absolutely still holds up, still hilarious.
Yeah,
just great. And Gene Wilder awesome in it. Just a real fun watch.
Oh, and Madeline Kahn in that one too, dude. I'm
tired.
Madeline Kahn.
Madeline Kahn is the best in everything she's in.
In everything, dude.
No matter what is happening, Madeline Kahn is what you want to look at in anything she's in.
Oh, yeah. She would absolutely just fucking grab your attention no matter what it is that she's in, because as we see also in Young Frankenstein, man, she was truly a fucking genius. She was a treasure and absolutely hilarious. And yeah, her old worn out prostitute character in Blazing Saddles, coming and going and going and coming and always too soon. And even Mel Brooks' part in there as the mayor or whatever, and he's always like playing with the paddle ball but like fucking it up.
I love that's the great thing about Mel Brooks, is how like he'll make himself the dumbest character.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. His character in Spaceballs, for instance.
Well, there's a really good podcast that that Kate sent to me that was Mel Brooks on one of those like earlier episodes of The Nerdist.
Oh yeah, I've heard that one. The great interview, yeah.
Yeah, really good interview. And he mentioned somewhere in there that, like, you know, the goal of comedy is like destruction.
Yes.
You know, he's like, it's all about annihilating people's ideas. It's all about, like, well, you know, he said as comedians, we're the the jester that whispers the truth into the king's ear and shit, you know?
Yep.
And it's funny because you watch the movies and they're so silly and stupid, but then when you know that, you're like, oh, he was actually attacking this stuff and showing the world how fucking stupid it is.
Yep. Yeah, he's genius in that way, that he's really like sneaking in a whole lot of subversive stuff while just making you die laughing at the stupidest shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I really love Mel Brooks, and I guess we should just go right into the movie portion, right?
Segue into that thing, man.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, too, dude. That guy, you know, he's still with us. He's 92,
94.
I think, now? 94?
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
I heard an interview with
sharp
him
as a tack, man.
a few years ago on WTF, I believe, Mark Maron, which, again, he's still sharp. The guy's still, like, very smart, very funny, very charming. He's great. Big fan. Let's talk about him a little bit, because I had never read up on Mel Brooks, despite like listening to him in interviews and stuff.
Yeah.
Just wanted to know more about the guy. So,
Secret origins.
Yep. Son of immigrants. The immigrants from Germany and the Ukraine.
Okay.
He was, grew up not too rich, not having much money or anything. Ended up joining the army for World War II. Not really a choice. Yeah, he's a World War II vet.
I did not know that. Whoa.
Was a minesweeper.
Holy fuck, what?
Yeah. So a fucking badass.
That is hardcore.
Yeah. Then when he got back, he got into the Catskills comedy scene. If you don't know much about Catskills comedy, you could check out Marvelous Miss Maisel Season 2. Basically, the Catskills, there were a lot of these Jewish summer retreats.
Oh.
And as we've talked about before, in the Jewish community, there is a love for comedy.
Yeah.
Just an absolute love for comedy. So at these Jewish retreats, they'd have comedy. And it's a very particular type of comedy.
Yeah, very much so. We were kind of chatting about that last week after we both watched the movie, where it's like this sort of brand of Jewish comedy is every bit as identifiable as when you see the dry but wacky British comedy style like Monty Python, or Canadian comedy like
Canadian comedy
Letterkenny.
has a very particular flavor, yeah.
Kiwi humor has its own thing as well. And
absolutely.
It's really hard to put a pin on what exactly makes this Jewish humor feel the way that it does. Yeah, I was hoping you could kind of explain it to me a little bit here, because in my head it was always one of those things where it's like, considering all the shit that the Jews have been through, it's probably a damn survival device, you know?
In some ways it was, yeah. A lot of it started, especially for the Eastern European Jewish community, started with satirizing Christianity, because they couldn't openly speak out against Christianity. It was a way of like slyly doing it.
Okay.
But Jewish humor in particular tends to favor things like wordplay and irony and satire. So it's really like about being like in its core about being anti-authoritarian and mocking everything.
Yeah. That's very much in line with what you said in that interview.
Yeah. And as well as like, being derived from mocking themselves. That's like the unique quality to Jewish humor, is that it is not about mocking the other. It's about self-mockery. It's about self-deprecation.
Yeah,
because
it's about everybody. Nobody's perfect. Everybody gets made fun of. It's kind of like
and
the
South
South Park
comedian
ethos.
himself is he is the full-on version of that. He stands up for the crowd and it takes on the crowd and then makes fun of himself. Basically, it's like, I am saying these things about myself, and it's really about you. And I'm honestly really elevating us all by saying we all do this, and this is stupid and funny, and it's not a big deal.
Right. Yeah. It kind of takes the fangs out of everything. And also, when you self-deprecate and make fun of yourself at the same time, I think it makes people feel less like they're being preached to. About
Exactly.
How fucked up and stupid their shit is.
Exactly. So you can get more in there. You can get more of this like message of like, decentralized authority and just not being a dick, basically. But Mel Brooks was, with Catskills comedy, very particularly the Borscht Belt humor that Catskills comedy used.
Okay.
Borscht Belt comedy uses rapid fire, often self-deprecating, like Jewish humor usually is, but typical themes of things like bad luck, puns, physical complaints and ailments, and aggravating relatives.
Okay,
so,
this all sounds familiar.
Exactly. Again, all these things come into other Mel Brooks work. And then he moved on to TV writing. He wrote on Your Show of Shows and some other stuff, and then moved on to film.
Dude,
and
all that writing and stuff, just as a quick PS, the writings that they were talking about doing on that Show of Shows, absolutely insane. Where, I mean, it was like a variety sketch kind of show.
Yes.
That was 90 minutes of new material, like 36 episodes a season.
Yes.
And these guys were cranking that stuff out.
Yep.
I mean, holy fuck. It takes like
crazy.
8 people to write 10 episodes of a new TV show these days. And these guys were doing an hour and a half a week.
The thing is, like, you look back on that, and one, they were overworking them like crazy.
Good
and two,
Lord, yeah.
If you got quality, like, that's the thing you still see with SNL. I mean, some people say, oh, SNL was better at some point. No, it wasn't. You're just remembering the best of DVDs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You watch any episode of SNL, and there's a ton of lulls.
Oh,
That's just
yeah.
how it happens, because it is a huge, high-pressure situation, and it is live.
Yeah, and it's an hour of material. Yeah, you're not always going to have good ones.
So you go back to this stuff, and it's like, how did they do that? And it's like, well, it sometimes was pretty shit material, and they weren't happy, and they didn't get to go home. That's how they did it.
Right. So he was doing all the TV writing and stuff like that before he got into film, right?
Yeah. And then, we got stuff like The Producers and 12 Chairs before this, and Blazing Saddles even came out the same year as Young Frankenstein.
Whoa, really?
It came out in 1974 in February, I believe.
Damn.
So this came out in December. So think about that, though. Like, when I look at this, like, I will talk about why this is third on my list and not first, because I have some issues with it.
Sure.
But when I look at those issues, I realize, like, the history of this is basically Gene Wilder had this idea, and his agent was asking him, or telling him he had these new clients, Peter Boyle and Marty Feldman, and he, wanted to see if he could get them all on a project together. And so Gene Wilder was just like, oh, I got this idea for, like, the grandson of Frankenstein, and he just doesn't want anything to do with the Frankenstein legacy. And so Mark Medavoy, who is now like a huge movie mogul, has been a movie mogul for a while, he was like, oh, great, you should talk to Mel about it, because he was working on Blazing Saddles at the time.
Wow.
So he took it to Mel, and at first Mel was like, I don't know. And then they sat down and started talking about it, and he convinced Mel, and they started writing it like after shooting Blazing Saddles. So, like, they'd be shooting Blazing Saddles and then go that night and sit around and write up Young Frankenstein. So Young Frankenstein kind of came together pretty quick.
Yeah.
To be out by the end of
Holy
74.
Shit. And that's wild too, because that just shows you the work ethic that these guys had, and also the work ethic that you have to survive in any creative field, where it's just like,
true.
You've delivered something as just incredibly, historically hilarious and fantastic as Blazing Saddles, and then do you get to rest and retire off that? No, you have to immediately start working on whatever is next. Like, there's been plenty of times, even just in my career as a YouTuber or whatever, where I'll be like, that was the best video I've probably ever put up.
Right.
And then as soon as I hit upload, you know what I'm doing? Thinking of the next one. Yeah. It's always next. You always have to keep creating. Yeah, it's always just forward momentum, man, and that is just further proof of it. I don't think I realized how close those two movies were together.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Very, very close. So, yeah, it's I can see where maybe, like, because I think some of the jokes are a little flat to me, like is this the Transylvania Station? Like it's
Yeah.
it's referencing a song
Chattanooga
that
Choo-Choo.
is so old.
Yeah.
Like even at the time when it came out, it's like, what?
Yeah, that's like a joke that, if you were sitting in the theater watching this in 1974, like maybe your parents got that joke then.
Right.
So yeah, you're right. Some very, very, very dated stuff. And this is overall like less silly, I think, than
It is.
a
It is
lot of the
bit
other
more
Mel Brooks movies.
I would say it works as an actual sequel to the movies it's parodying.
Oh.
Like if you wanted to watch those movies and then watch this movie as like that's what happened next, it would be like, yeah, okay. Similar tone, similar stuff. Like, yeah, that's a good sequel. So it shows how much they actually cared about these 1930s horror movies. I mean, there's homage to other horror movies in this, specifically King Kong when they have him all chained up and on stage and stuff. But yeah, they definitely cared about the movies they were making some parody of. But also, it's the jokes. There's just so many jokes that are timelessly hilarious.
Oh yeah, definitely so, man. And this is one of those movies that my wife and I can basically quote from start to finish. Just turn it on and we'll just recite the movie.
Emily was doing the same while we were watching.
It's irresistible, man. And I will absolutely say, before we even get into any really deep diving or nitpicking into the movie itself, I am 100% looking at this movie through rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. But I tried to take them off. I tried to see it as like, well, there's problems with this. It's not perfect. Obviously, it was, made so long ago. There have been a ton of advancements in filming and stuff, and also in the way story structure works and tightening it up. But I still can't look at it as anything but genius.
Oh, yeah. Same here, man. And, I totally get the warm fuzzies from this movie. This is one of those warm fuzzy movies for me. I've mentioned on the podcast before, but I know that this might be somebody's first time listening to the show.
Sure.
This is our traditional carving pumpkins with my wife's family movie. As long as I have known that family, which is like 20 years this year, which is insane, this is the movie that we put on while we carve pumpkins at Halloween.
Wow.
This is just what you watch. You watch this, and then sometimes we watch the Sleepy Hollow cartoon if everybody's still working afterwards. And so this is one of those movies that I have very, very, very fond memories of. And it's funny because, I'm just so ingrained to think about this movie as being related to that particular task that, while Kate and I were watching it the other day in freezing cold January, while we probably still had our Christmas tree up at that point, we were both just sitting here watching this being like, where's the spiced rum and cider? Where's the smell of pumpkin? How come I don't have my hands full of pumpkin guts and stuff? It's just so tied to time and place and event in my mind that I would even say that this might be the first time, if not the first time in 20 years, that I have watched this movie. Actually sat down to watch it.
Oh, wow. Just paid full attention to it.
Yeah, totally. Because it's always just on while we carve pumpkins. And you quote the lines and you laugh at the parts you always laugh at and stuff like that. So this is kind of interesting for me, actually just watching it this way. It kind of gave me a little bit different perspective on some of the things in here.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's it gave me a few little nitpicks and stuff that I could sit here and poke at. But at the same time, it's just I fucking love this movie, and I'll always love this movie,
Yeah, the same. They're, the tiny nitpicks aren't gonna hurt it for me, but it definitely, I would say it's a little bit too long. I think
it's kind of long. Yeah, that's what I got out of it too.
Snappy as his other pictures.
Yeah,
because it's a little too long. But so all the scenes are a delight. It's great. I don't know what I'd cut. It just seems
that's what I was
long.
gonna say, right? Because I was kind of making my notes and stuff for this, and I was kind of like you also mentioned to me too. At times, it just kind of feels like a bunch of skits that are sort of tied together.
Yes. Yeah, it really is that, and that other of his movies don't feel that way necessarily. This one does though.
There's definite scenes in this that don't affect the forward momentum of the story itself. Like, if you snipped out the part where, he goes to the well with the little girl that's, playing with the flowers
or the
stuff.
part where he goes and sees the blind man,
Yeah, it's like, you could totally snip those out of the movie, but then you wouldn't get, I was going to make espresso. It's like,
you wouldn't get the great, I mean, Gene Hackman playing that role for some reason.
Yeah,
like,
for some fucking reason, right?
Yeah, the thing is, though, I think if you watch Bride of Frankenstein, I mean, this is the thing. Bride of Frankenstein is a almost 40-year-old movie when this comes out.
Wow.
But if you watch Bride of Frankenstein, it feels that way, too. It feels like a string of set pieces, and I'm not mad at it for that. So I think that maybe they're mimicking that, but it kind of hurts the film as a whole. But it is also doing what it's supposed to, spoofing the Frankenstein movie. So yeah, it works in that way, but it doesn't work overall.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing in terms of, like, I think any of the nitpicks that we have about, some of those vignette by vignette sort of feels and stuff like that. It's like, well, it's only because it was intentionally paying homage to the original and the beats that they followed. Yeah. So if they
and I mean, Spaceballs does the same. So if you don't like the way Star Wars plays out, of course, Spaceballs is going to be a bit of a chore. I'd say the same with Blazing Saddles. It plays out like a Western. Right.
And, if you are a huge fan of Frankenstein or you are a huge fan of Star Wars or whatever, and those movies deviated from the beats of the source material, you'd be mad about that too.
Exactly. So these movies definitely, if you want to appreciate them fully, you do have to appreciate the stuff that they're spoofing, and that's that shows how hard they were, like, working on really making something that would be respectable and not just making fun of. Like, that's where we get stuff like Not Another Teen Movie and the spoofs that followed that, where it's just like, well, this is just making fun of a bunch of movies. Yeah. Like, it's not, there's no appreciation to it, really. It's just like, oh, remember this thing from this movie? Here it is. Remember there was the kid with the bag from American Beauty? Here's a kid with a bag. Like, it's just not funny. But these are, because they appreciate the movie so much, and because they hone it in to be very specific, whereas, as I said, Not Another Teen Movie, it's just every single teen movie that came out for a 10-year span.
Well, let's just use that as fodder. That's it. Yeah. That's the source material. Let's just go with it. Yeah, you're right. They did pay a lot of respect to the originals, and it goes deeper even than I knew, too, where it's like they actually contacted the special effects department that did the props and set design and stuff for the OG.
And got a lot of the props, Yeah,
like, dude had them in his garage. He had Frankenstein's laboratory in his fucking garage. Yeah, so they actually got the original equipment. So whenever he's talking about his grandfather's lab and his equipment, that's literally it.
That is what it is,
That's cool. Like, they didn't have to do that.
No, nobody would have known the difference.
No, And that didn't go without some complaints from the studios and stuff like that. Apparently the story, according to Mel Brooks, goes is that he, got funding for the movie and stuff like that. They signed the papers, and then on his way out of the office, he goes, oh, by the way, it's going to be in black and white, and walked off. The executives and stuff were just like, no. Like, they...
Yeah, that was not
their exact words were, at the time. They were like, Mel, Peru just got color. Like, they just got color film in Peru at this point. Like, that's going to be why you would do the movie in color. But, they were really, really stuck on having this thing being filmed in color. At one point, they even tried to sort of trick him into loading color film and be like, oh, we'll change it to black and white in processing. And he wouldn't allow it. He's like, it has to be right. It has to look like the real thing, or else it's not going to work.
Yeah, and that like, just to put it in context, like, when you see Night of the Living Dead, which came out 6 years before this, and it's in black and white, that was a budgetary constraint and not normal.
No.
This is a choice, like, and it's, again, not normal, and people want the new thing. They don't want the old thing, but this is giving them black and white, and fucking, like, almost $3 million budget made $86 million. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah,
he knew what he was doing.
Man, that's awesome.
So yeah, that's he also did, a lot of the same film techniques with, like, using wipes and fades to black and the iris in and iris out. Like, a lot of stuff he was doing is very, like, going back to those movies, because he is a master at the spoof. And to master the spoof, as we've been saying, you gotta care about the thing you're spoofing.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just use it as fodder to tear up and mock and rip apart and stuff like that. You're right. Like, even those wipes and transitions and things you're talking about, like, that is indicative of somebody who has studied the source material very closely and is truly paying homage to it while also having some fun with it. And I think that makes a hell of a lot of difference in terms of, like you said, other spoofs and things. Yeah, I forgot. I don't want to talk too much about Mary Shelley because we're going to do Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and I am excited as fuck to talk about Mary Shelley, but I just want to remind everyone, Young Frankenstein is considered by many to be one of the funniest films of all time. Okay, so think about this. A bisexual uber goth created one of the greatest horror characters of all times. 75 depictions of Frankenstein in film. Wow.
Created science fiction as a genre, basically. And is responsible for one of the funniest movies of all time.
You know, when you get down to it, I'm not sure how pleased Mary Shelley would be about the end result of that, but it is inspiring.
I think she would love it.
Yeah?
I'm telling you, Mary Shelley was a badass. She carried around the calcified heart of her husband after he died. She was a badass.
What?
Yes.
Fucking goth, dude.
She lost her virginity on her mom's grave.
Now that is fucking badass. Those are total Smith's lyrics right there.
Love Mary Shelley. Can't wait to talk about Mary Shelley's Frankenstein specifically. But
wow.
This is a confluence of great stuff, and that's one of the reasons why it's considered one of the best comedies of all time. This is a lot of these people at the height of their careers. Like Gene Wilder he's done The Producers, he's kind of relatively unknown there, but by the time he's done Blazing Saddles, this is after he was in what is that movie? Woody Allen, Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Afraid to Ask.
Oh, right.
That was kind of his star turn.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like this. He's hot right now. Cloris Leachman, same thing.
Oh my God.
This
Cloris
is well
Leachman,
into her
dude.
career, but not even near the end of her career.
She is fucking awesome. She is awesome.
Cloris Leachman. Here's a little mind-blowing fucking fact about Cloris Leachman.
Hit me.
22 Primetime Emmy nominations.
Holy
8
shit.
Primetime Emmy wins. She is the most nominated actress of all time and tied with Julia Louis-Dreyfus for most awarded actress of all time.
For real?
For Primetime Emmys. Yeah.
Holy shit, I didn't know that.
Now, let's be honest, Julia Louis-Dreyfus was fucking screwed the entire time she was on Seinfeld that she never won an Emmy. That's just absolutely, honestly, one of the most ridiculous things ever. But
I didn't realize that. Really?
Insane. Cloris Leachman, just a fucking pro. Madeline Kahn is coming off of 2 Academy Award nominations, one for Paper Moon and one for Blazing Saddles.
Oh, wow.
Gene Hackman has done The French Connection and The Conversation. Like, he's, again, like, hot as fuck. Like, this is people at the heights of their careers. Mel Brooks at his most appreciated, I think. Not that, by the time the 90s came around, it was like, oh, right, Mel Brooks fucking rules. But, the 70s was his height. So, this is just a real good confluence of awesomeness that turns out to be this really fun, funny movie.
Oh, yeah. And then you've also got those fantastic side characters like Inspector Kemp.
Inspector Kemp. Yeah, he's great. And, of course, Marty Feldman as Igor and Peter Boyle as the monster.
I mean, come on. It doesn't get more perfect. It does not get more perfect.
It doesn't.
And this is truly one of those times, too, where you can tell that everybody on set knew what movie they were in. They knew what the tone should be.
Yep.
Everybody was on the same page. And I love when you can watch a movie, whether it be a comedy or an action movie or a horror movie or whatever, where you can tell everybody knew exactly what this was out to achieve.
And they're working on it. They're going to make sure it happens. And they're the best at what they do. So it's like perfect. Yeah, this is one of those movies where, you know, he's got his regulars. He always used like the same music guy and stuff, and Mel Brooks worked with the same people, and this is kind of one of those moments where it was like, we all know each other, we know how to make this funny, and they nail it.
Yeah, and apparently Gene Wilder was having maybe a little bit too much fun on set, as he apparently was cracking up laughing the entire time and like ruined so many takes. But also too, you know, because you're working with such a bunch of badasses, the improv level was really high in this movie too. Apparently, like basically everything Madeline Kahn did was improvised. Like no tongue, all that stuff was just her just picking up shit on the spot.
Fucking genius.
God damn it.
Damn.
She is so fucking funny, man.
Yeah.
I want to know the story of why she sings the battle hymn of the Republic all through the movie. Like, why is that her song? I don't fucking understand, man. And apparently, even like Gene Hackman, like I was going to make espresso, like that was improvised on the spot. And
I assumed, though it's like, it's a perfect improv line too, because it's like imagine if you know what espresso is. I guess in '74 that would have been a little more obscure.
Yeah.
But now it's pretty common to know that espresso involves a lot of steam, and obviously the monster would have got something steamed to hell. And like, just a great improv. Well. Yeah.
But they apparently in the cut there that we see in the movie, they had to like clip the audio as soon as he said that, because the entire cast started fucking laughing. I mean, there's just so much stuff where you're like, you know that they had a good time making this. And apparently too, they filmed like fucking 4 hours of footage for this.
I would love to see all the outtakes.
Oh, yeah. And it's just because they were just spitballing and improvising and just having fun while they were doing this stuff. I mean, how could you not? Like, they've already built these amazing sets. You're working with all these amazing actors and actresses, and everybody's, like you said, firing on all cylinders. Like, how could they not have had a blast doing this? Even like Cloris Leachman, I think, is so understatedly funny in this, because obviously,
absolutely,
you think about Cloris Leachman in this, and you're like, oh, it's Frau Blucher and the horse neighs and stuff. Yeah, and she's supposed to be like terrifying, but she has so many subtly funny things. And again, improv. Like even whenever she's like Ovaltine, she just made that up on the spot,
which is
so fucking funny.
Fucking funny, yes, it's so perfect. And I'm glad Gene Wilder didn't crack up, because that would have been the hardest part.
Oh, that's the thing, right? Whenever you talk about these people improvising, it's like, it's amazing enough that they came up with such funny stuff on the spot, but then also too that the other people on screen with them were able to keep it together. That's a feat in itself,
I'd
there.
Be terrible in that situation. Anybody who's listening to this podcast, I laugh at everything.
Oh, dude, I'd have a hard time.
Possibly. It takes so much self-control and comedic knowledge to really just understand, like, I need to let this land, because that was hilarious.
Yeah. And I think the guy that plays Inspector Kemp, I think that guy is fucking hilarious too. Dude,
yes. So good.
I don't even know how many times into watching this movie that I noticed that he is wearing a monocle over an eye patch.
Yes.
Monocle over eye patch. Like, I don't know why my eyes didn't register it. Like the first, dozen times I watched this movie. Then finally I was like, he's wearing a monocle above an eye patch. Like, that makes zero sense.
No. Do you know this, though, Ben? This is a fun fact about Kenneth Mars, who plays that character. He also voiced King Triton in The Little Mermaid.
No way.
Yeah.
Dude.
Also, another voice actor in this, Brainy Smurf, the guy who stands up and asks the questions in the classroom scene.
Oh, my God.
Voices Brainy Smurf and a ton of other characters.
Kept a piece of vermicelli in a jar for years until it came to life. That guy?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
The pasta?
I knew I recognized that guy's voice from something.
Yeah, it's very clearly Brainy Smurf when you listen to it again. I mean, obviously he's doing a voice for Brainy Smurf, but it seems like pretty much his voice.
Wow, man. And that's the thing, is like, while obviously they had a ton of fun, making this movie, at the same time, this is a very serious deal. Like, writing comedy and keeping things funny takes a lot of work and preparedness, and a lot of butting heads sometimes. And apparently,
it does.
Whenever Gene Wilder had the idea of the putting on the Ritz scene, That's the point where Mel Brooks was like, Gene, this is too far. Like, this is too
absurd.
Silly.
Yeah.
It's like, this is an homage and it's a spoof, but that's going too far. And they apparently had a huge fight about it. Yeah. And Mel Brooks like came back to him and he's like, we're going to film that scene because you fought so hard for it. He's like, I think it might be too far, but the fact that you were so impassioned about it means that it's a good idea. Like, if it wasn't a good idea, you wouldn't have fought so hard for it.
Right.
And sure enough, that's like one of the things you think about when you think about this fucking movie is, bring on the wrist!
Yes, that's one of the most iconic scenes, yeah.
Because, dude, the absurdity of, like, that's how he is showing to this community that this monster he created is sophisticated. What would you do? I don't know, a tap dance number to putting on the Ritz. Like, that's so dumb. It's fantastic.
It is absolutely. Yeah, that Gene Wilder Mel Brooks working relationship is pretty genius because, like, Mel Brooks believed in Gene Wilder a lot. Like, Mel Brooks normally puts himself in his movies. He's not in this movie because Gene Wilder insisted that he would bring in too much of that fourth wall breaking stuff, and he didn't want that in the film. And then, of course, Marty Feldman does it. But it's like Mel Brooks trusted this guy enough to believe in him even when he didn't exactly believe in the project from the beginning.
Yeah.
He just knew, like, well, this guy gets it, so I'm probably wrong here.
Right. And that's amazing, too, you know, in that kind of creative working context, for somebody to have enough faith in this other person to be like, this person thinks I shouldn't be in it. They're probably right. That is an immense level of trust.
Absolutely. So, like, that is where the genius kind of comes in here, is with all these people, all these very funny people who have so much to contribute. Mel Brooks was able to foster an environment where it was just like, everybody has a voice. Everybody can bring their own thing, and we'll make it work.
Yeah, and I'll listen to it, even though, you know, Mel Brooks is like one of the greatest comic geniuses of all time. He still wasn't so high and mighty that he would shut down people's ideas or be like, no, that's not how it was in the script or whatever. Like, that right there is like, that's one of those like Frank Zappa level things where it's just like, he's a genius. He can write stuff better than any of us, but also he recognizes the genius that some people possess, that they might bring something to a project that makes it better. So he'll listen, you know?
Yeah.
Especially as a creative person that can be very controlling about everything that I do.
Yes,
it's so hard. Fucking hard. Like, it trusting other creative people that way takes a lot. So I can really appreciate the fact that Mel Brooks was able to hand over the reins to Gene Wilder and everybody else that worked on this to make it as good as it is. That's got to be hard.
Yeah. I think, you know, when we look at like how this subverts so much from Frankenstein but pays so much homage to those movies, like the subversions I think are real interesting because they all make the character so much kinder and gentler. Like, they make this Frankenstein that is like kind of lovable, and I think that's led to, because we've gotten so many more portrayals of Frankenstein as kind of lovable and affable or, you know, silly, like, say, Monster Squad.
Sure.
Like, so much of that, I think, is playing from here, of just this idea of, like, well, like, if you read the book, there's a very, like, connectable side to the creature. Like, you can very much get in his headspace and understand him in a way that makes you relate to him. And a lot of the movies had kind of pulled that out and made him just this, you know, dumb, scary creature. And now this brings in that, like, lovable element that, you know, you have to have because it's a comedy, I guess. But it's also, like, it's been repeated so many times that I think Brooks is pretty much responsible for making him lovable.
You might be right, yeah. Because it's like you said, I guess everything up to this had been more of that
just
horrific
creature
side
like,
of the character.
I'm mean and I mean, the Bride of Frankenstein does have, as I said, the moments with the blind guy in the hut are the moments when you kind of connect to him, But in the book, that's where he's like learning to read and learning to speak and stuff. In the movie, it's more he just learns to smoke. And that's less connectable to me. I don't know how, like, a person learning to smoke is like, yes, I get it now. Human.
Be somebody, baby. Smoke.
Like,
that's true. That's funny, man. You know, one thing that is kind of odd, though, that I was thinking about as I was watching it this time, and again, maybe it's because I was just watching it and not, you know, having it on while I carve a gourd.
Right.
And maybe it's because, you know, during the Halloween season there, we watched Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which is, of course, pretty different tonally from this one.
Way different tonally than this, yeah.
One thing that kind of struck me this time while I was watching it, that I think I hadn't considered before about the entire Mary Shelley. I have a hard time saying that fucking name.
Mary Shelley.
Frankenstein story that I hadn't really considered before is that, you know, the entire story of Dr. Frankenstein and him making this abomination that should not live out of, you know, decaying corpse parts and
right.
The horrors of science and stuff like that, things that would become, you know, topics through Michael Crichton and all kinds of other writers, the scariness of new scientific discovery. In a lot of ways, I think that it's kind of a commentary on how monstrous and how terrifying it would be to see males try to create life, whereas with females, creating life is part of their nature.
Yeah, it just happens.
Yeah. Meanwhile, if man tries to create life, this is how horrific and fucked up it would be.
Yeah. I mean that is one of the central tenets of the original novel.
I hadn't thought about it. You know, I hadn't really considered
the
that
horrors that man can create. But yeah, I mean this obviously avoids all of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, yeah, I mean, like, it acknowledges it slightly with. Just one of the best lines ever. I think it's the moment when the movie becomes a comedy when he says, "My grandfather's work was doo-doo." Because before that, nothing necessarily intentionally funny happens.
Right.
It could very well just be seen like, this is a Frankenstein sequel. And then he says that, and it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, because it even starts off with like that corpse in the coffin and stuff. Like, I always forget that that's how the movie starts. And then it like doesn't really let go of the box, which is just kind of silly. I forgot about that, man. But yeah, like I said, I just hadn't really considered that angle this time while watching it. For some reason, it really just kind of stood out to me this time around.
Yeah, we're going to have to do Mary Shelley's Frankenstein soon enough, because I've wanted to talk about the book itself, and I just have so many opinions regarding the way people relate to Frankenstein these days. I think people they're missing something by not actually reading the book.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot in there that needs to be digested, and really, again, as I was saying earlier, Mary Shelley deserves so much more than she gets. Like, so many of us only understand her as the writer of Frankenstein and do not get what lasting implications that book has had since 1820. Like,
wow.
It's still like Romero's zombies are the zombies they are because of Frankenstein. Like, Romero removed the Haitian voodoo zombie element and turned them basically into Frankensteins.
Damn. I need to read it. I don't really know why I haven't read it now that I think about it.
I don't know that the prose hits with people these days. Romantic prose, I think, is probably a little overly flowery and stuff. And then it's, you know, she's also talking science at the time, you know, like magnetism, and I believe she mentions Erasmus Darwin in there. It's interesting. I think it's well worth reading, and I'll try to read it before we ever do a Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, because it's not too long of a book and well worth the read.
All right, we'll have to scope that thing out. You know, one member of the cast I just realized that we overlooked that is essential to this fucking movie, Terry Garr. Terry Garr
Oh,
is
yes.
hilarious.
Rollins, hey.
Yeah.
She's great, yeah.
What knockers? Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor. It brings in the sexual element of Mel Brooks's comedies.
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
always there and was kind of more in vogue when he was first becoming popular, like 60s and through the 70s. And nowadays, people are so like, I would call it anti-sexual. Like, everybody's anti-horny now. Like, people don't want sex in their movies, and I just don't get it. Like, normalize fuck piles, guys. Let's just... the world just needs to be more comfortable with fucking.
Well, the thing about it is like, I think it's so easy for sexual stuff, especially in terms of comedy, to quickly turn very exploitive and very creepy.
That's true.
But the thing about this is like, Terry Garr in this is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, she is smoking in this movie, and I don't think
that's like part of the joke, right? Is that like she's gorgeous and she knows it. When he says huge knockers or whatever, she doesn't go like, "How dare you?"
Yeah, right. But the thing about it is I think as attractive as she is, she's never the punchline.
Right.
I think that oftentimes it's made to show how easily intoxicated men are by a hot woman. You know what I mean? I think that even that in itself is a commentary about men more than it is about like, look at this hot babe. It's more like, oh yeah, fucking dudes will do anything for a hot babe. Like, it's more made to make fun of
men.
Yeah, more than anything. And you see that in Blazing Saddles as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Does that make sense?
And, yeah, 100%. And like, Madeline Kahn is kind of like, what I love about Madeline Kahn is that she's sexy as fuck. But like, she puts the funny ahead of everything.
Yeah.
So like, it took me a while, because as a kid I grew up so much with Madeline Kahn. It took me a while to realize like, oh, I'm attracted to her, like way into her.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
In a different way than it is like, oh, that's a pretty model. It's like, oh, she's gorgeous and she's hilarious.
Yeah, and smart as hell.
Yeah. And I love the way that like Mel Brooks got that and plays her that way.
Yeah,
it's like,
I never feel like the women are exploited in this.
Exactly. She's never like the butt of the joke. She's always the one making the joke.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I feel that way about this. And I think that's part of why these movies, in my opinion, are aging well. I mean, it's just like what we said about the racial humor in Blazing Saddles and stuff. It's not made to be exploitive of black people. It's to show how dumb white people are. Like, using the hotness of these women isn't made to exploit hot women. It's made to show
how dumb men can be
are.
made by just seeing a hot woman. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they see boobs, it's just like, oh, like fucking system shuts down. Like, I feel like it's always a little bit subversive in that way and never exploitive of anybody, you know?
Right. Yeah, and I'd love, if anybody has the alternative opinion on this and wants to try to explain why Mel Brooks doesn't hold up, please send us all your messages
let us
and
know.
things. I'd love to see like if there is an alternative opinion, because from what I'm gathering from just knowing how many people I know who love these movies and still love these movies, and I know these people pick out problems in movies and still watching Mel Brooks love these movies, I just think they hold up. I think his humor really works in a way that is kind of timeless.
Yeah.
Even though some of his movies exist very well, as we said in Robin Hood Men in Tights, very much in the 1990s, the humor still works.
Oh yeah, and I think even some of that comes from that vaudeville influence, which was also influencing Looney Tunes and a lot of the other things that we grew up with as kids too. So I think a lot of times with these movies, you watch them and you're like, it's almost like live action Bugs Bunny. Because again, there's all the breaking of the fourth wall, there's all the slapstick stuff, and I feel like there's similar enough influences to what we grew up with that keep these movies relevant and hilarious to us. I do wonder what it would be like to be a 14-year-old watching this movie now for the first time. I don't know if it's relevant. I don't know if it still hits anymore, but I know for me it does.
Yeah, I think that some of the references are just beyond Zoomers, probably, because like I think people of a certain generation were introduced to so many, like, because we were shown so many, say, Looney Tunes cartoons, that some of them were from the 30s, and we were watching them in the 80s and 90s. It was like all of those references hit with us, even though we didn't know what they were referencing.
Right. Yeah.
So that's. I'm wondering if you grew up with Brooks, even if you don't know the references, is it like, I get the reference because of Mel Brooks?
Yeah, totally. Well, it's just like a lot of people hear, classical music and they're like, oh, that's that Bugs Bunny song.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because Bugs Bunny introduced us to so much great music.
Yeah, and Disney, Fantasia, and all that kind of stuff too,
all
as
that
well.
Good stuff. Uh-huh.
Yeah, but like you know it from what you know it from, not necessarily the source material where it originated.
But what does it matter?
Right?
You appreciate it for what it is.
Either way, it brought it into your life. So either way, it's a win, right?
Yeah, and I think Mel Brooks exists in that territory where I would bet that if you showed Mel Brooks movies to younger kids today, they'd get, because the jokes don't rely so much on absolute knowledge of the things they're referencing.
Right. Yeah. Stands on its own. I think so too. Now, like I said, this is one of those movies that if you hang around our household for more than maybe 5 or 6 hours, you will probably hear a quote from this movie.
So many great quotes.
We use lines from this all the time in daily life, kind of to the point where I forget that that's where they came from. I mentioned that on something else recently where I was like, I forget that I say that line because of this movie. There's just so many fucking things in here, man. And it's from everybody. It's not like there's just like one character that has all the funny lines. Like, you can point out anyone in this and they have hysterical shit the whole movie. Like, I love that this is very much an ensemble thing and not just one person got handed all the funny lines. If anything, Gene Wilder probably has the least amount of funny lines.
Yeah, he's more of an exposition machine. He's more of the straight man carrying the whole story, where everybody else gets to make the jokes, which is like surprising for a hilarious comedic actor to write himself the part of the straight man.
Yeah, and give everybody else the overly funny lines and stuff, right?
Yeah, I love to see that. It's it's hard to be the straight man. As I said before, it's hard to not crack up. It's hard when you are funny to not be funny. Yeah. To just like let others be the focal point. And he does it so very well in this. I mean, he still has great lines, like the whenever he's like, I'll take this with quiet dignity. I don't want to live. I do not want to live. It's
dude,
just
even
genius.
Like, destiny, no escaping, that for me. Oh my God, man. So fucking funny. Marty Feldman has so many good parts of this, too.
Yeah,
Even
Marty
like,
Feldman is so
dude, like,
funny.
What a lot of people don't realize is like, walk this way, when he's like, walk this way. And then he like hands him the cane. He's like, no, walk this way.
Walk this way.
Yeah, exactly. Like Aerosmith. That's why that song exists, is because of this fucking movie.
Yep.
Marty Bug-Eyed Feldman.
Yeah,
inspired one of the greatest
like
splash rock songs of all time.
thyroid condition or something, made his eyes bug out, and he said, I could get my eyes corrected or whatever, and then just be like every other actor and go out for a part on Kojak every few months, or I could look unique and use it for humor. So that's what he did. Like he saw that actually this is funny and I can use this. And so like I even look at moments where like they do the freeze frame on his face and it's like somebody could say like, oh, they're making fun of him, and it's like, I bet Marty Feldman asked for that. Yeah.
Again, it doesn't feel exploitive to me.
Exactly. Like,
oh my God, he has so much fucking funny shit.
Yes.
In this movie. Abby normal. Again, like I say that shit all the time, man. Dude, one of the funniest lines.
Why are you shouting?
One of the funniest lines is when he's like, help me with these bags. And he's like, all right, you take the blonde, I'll take the one in the toy bin. Like, dude, like, I say this shit constantly.
When he's flirting with Madeline Kahn, he's like, shh. What does he say? He says, like, act normal. That's what he says whenever Frankenstein comes walking over. Froderick.
Yeah, Froderick.
Igor, Froderick.
It's not
it is
Igor,
just
it's
full
Igor.
of hilarious like lines and moments, and just like both of us were saying before we started recording, like I don't have many notes. I just wrote down a lot of quotes.
Yeah,
like,
seriously.
There's not much to say except like God, it's really fucking funny. It does a great job of paying homage to the stuff that it's paying homage to. It does a great job of spoofing those things, and it does a great job of just being funny on its own.
Yeah, absolutely so, man. And like my nitpicks would be that I do think the third act kind of drags a little bit. Like it is just kind of like like a bunch of little vignettes all kind of strewn together and stuff. But then at the same time, like when I read through my notes, even in that third act where I feel like things kind of drag a little bit, it's still just nothing but quotes of hilarious shit that happens in those scenes. Like, there's still hilarious stuff happening when I feel like the movie is dragging. So it's like, is it dragging exactly? I don't know. Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, like, that was the thing that I was the most ready to say about this is like, it could have been shorter. But then at the same time, I'm not mad about all the extra stuff that doesn't affect the story that's in this movie, because ultimately it's hilarious and quotable and is just part of my lexicon. So I'm like...
And it's not even like... It's not like it's 2 hours. It's an hour 40. So, it's not overly long. It's just... It does... I agree with you. It does feel like it drags, but it's also like, well, there's so much funny stuff happening. Like, isn't almost like by the time you get there, you're overloaded with funny. Like, it's been too much. Your brain's just like, okay. Too much. I gotta
shut
off for a little bit.
A dessert buffet where you're like, okay, I'm just sugared out by this point, right?
Too much, yeah.
But the funny thing is like there's still stuff in this movie that, well, again, possibly because I usually watch this while, elbow deep in a pumpkin, that I'm still noticing new things in it. Where, like at the very end of the movie, whenever they're trying to play the music up at the top of the castle to lure Peter Boyle back. And Marty Feldman had that like French horn he's like jamming on.
I didn't
so
notice
stupid.
that. What?
Yeah. He's also playing the
stupid and funny.
the piano during the putting on the Ritz scene too. There's like one shot of him. It's barely there, but he's playing piano too. I don't know. There's just like all kinds of little things that went by that I was like, I don't think I ever noticed that before.
Yeah. I mean, I did feel, I watched it 3 times leading up to this. I did feel even after my third watch, like I missed so much.
Yeah.
Like it's just like maybe that is it. It's like sensory overload. There's just too much of it. It's just so funny. You can't like ever get a moment of reprieve. So by the third act, you're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, just I get what's happening is funny. I don't have any laughs left. I'm sorry.
It's fucking hilarious. I get it. Yeah, you're out of laughs. You've used up your laugh quota for the day, right? Madeline Kahn showing up with that Bride of Frankenstein here too is just
yes,
so
awesome.
Fucking funny, man. Dude, Madeline Kahn, dude. I just want to talk about her for just a second because she seriously is
I'd say one of the funniest people in history.
One of the funniest fucking comedians in history. She is absolutely hysterical. All that shit, man, where like I said, where she's like the whole like taffeta darling thing. She's like, oh, the hair, not the nails. Like her fiance can't even touch her because she's so done up and worked up that you can't even look at her, basically. It's so funny, man.
Yeah, no, I love everything I just think of the like, Blazing Saddles, for instance, Clue, like she is
Mixed Nuts.
Genius. Yes, she is absolutely genius. And to just have access to her as readily as Mel Brooks did, like that's awesome. Glad that we got so much of her just being hilarious.
Yeah, me too, man. Do you have any other nitpicks you want to point out about the movie?
I mean, nothing big, honestly. I mean, I just think that, everything that happens in it is funny, so I understand the justification for keeping it.
Yeah.
Just as we said, though, it's just a little too long. But that is just a tiny little nitpick where I don't really see any other problems with the film. It's supposed to be absurdly funny, and it does that.
Yeah.
So it nails what it sets out to do, and that's exactly what you want it to be when you're thinking of a Mel Brooks movie. So I love it.
Yeah, me too, man. You got anything else you want to point out before we rate this thing and head on off into the dark, deep night?
No, let's head into the dark, deep night.
Let's go ahead and do that. It's as dark as the inside of a dog out there. Give him a sedative. Oh, my God, man. Yeah, for me, dude, this is one of those ones that, like, I realize, again, I'm totally looking at it with the warm and fuzzies on. Is it the funniest thing he ever did? No. Is it kind of long? Yeah. No. But at the end of the day, this is still just a fucking treasure of a movie. I can't give it anything less than a 9, and that's honestly just because Blazing Saddles is a 10 to me. Blazing Saddles might be a fucking 11 for me.
It might be. Yeah, it might be all the way up there.
Yeah. If I'd never seen Blazing Saddles, this would probably be a 10, you know?
Yeah. I'd say 9.5. It's right there. I mean, you just look at small things like the way Peter Boyle's like thumb is on fire and he just looks at it and nods.
Yeah.
And then freaks out. Like,
dude, Peter Boyle, I don't think we talked him up enough in this.
We didn't. He's
hysterical.
He's genius. Yeah. We did that X-Files episode that he was in that he won an Emmy for.
Oh, man.
And he is just an amazing actor. He's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, he is great. And very, very flexible, too. Like, he can really play a lot of different types of roles. And, he's one of those guys that does kind of just disappear into roles a lot of times.
Yep.
But I think a lot of people just know him as, like, you know, whatever. Everybody Loves Raymond. Like, that's what a lot of people think of him as. But, man, he was so fantastic. It's also crazy how many people in this are dead. Right?
I mean, it's not that crazy how old is this movie? Almost 50
old.
years?
Yeah, okay. All right, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too crazy to think a few people would die in 50 years, but yeah, it is insane. Like, I actually thought about that while watching Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. I was like, everybody involved with this is dead.
Right, yeah.
That is so wild to think about. Like,
for real, right?
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, how are they in our TVs putting on these performances?
Like, if they're dead, how are they there? Huh?
How are they doing it? I never really have
that
understood that. Yeah. Take that, science.
Yeah, science has no explanation for how the people in the TV are still there.
Nope, I've not heard one answer yet. So it's a treasure. Watch this one. I know that I will watch it every year. I mean, actually, the fact that we didn't watch it this past Halloween is an absolute anomaly.
Yeah.
We actually didn't even carve jack-o'-lanterns this Halloween either. Maybe just because this whole year has just been fucked and kind of absent of holidays, more or less, since we've not been able to get together and do anything. But we didn't carve pumpkins this year, and we didn't watch Young Frankenstein, which just felt really, really odd. But I'm glad that I still had an excuse to watch it again for the show, and I know that this October I will be watching it as I hack up a gourd, drink some spiced rum and cider, and have myself a good time, because we know that alcohol and sharp, sharp knives always work well together.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And also, we should add happy birthday to my wife who picked this movie from the movie submissions.
Happy birthday!
She likes the show for some reason.
It's my God.
She comes home and hears me talk and then wants to do that on her free time.
I heard a rumor, okay, and this might just seem like gossip talk right here. Okay, so don't take my word for it, but I've heard people are saying, right? That's what we say. People are saying.
Let's hear it.
She's such a big fan of the show, she fucks one of the hosts.
She does, dude.
I've heard.
She absolutely does. It is like, what? She's just like down to do it, too. Like, yes, please.
Jeez.
She even says they're married, I guess.
Whoa. I mean, I know we have fans, but that's a new level of fandom right there.
I know. Super fan.
Super fan. Such a fan fucks one of the hosts.
And
that's
if
how
you
know.
want to be a super fan like her, you can marry me too.
On patreon.com.
Yeah, patreon.com/dead and lovely. Head on over there. The $25,000 tier is the Mary Steven tier.
That's right.
But other than that, though, $1 to $5, whatever, you get access to our Patreon exclusive episodes. If you're a $5 patron, you get to submit a movie, and once a month we randomly draw from the Smoking Bowl and review that movie. This entire month we've been reviewing fan submissions, so just head on over there, become a fan. You can steer this ship.
That's right. Mm-hmm. You're doggone right. That's why the show's been so good this month. We've been playing the cards of what you guys want to see here on the show. So thank you guys so much for contributing and supporting us. And we'd like to see more of you. And we'd also like to see more reviews popping up on the iTunes. Not just Mr. Oh, this show's good, but I don't really understand why they can't just give me a rating of the movie and then leave. They have to talk and hang out.
I wish, could they just give me the Wikipedia synopsis of the film and then tell me what they thought of it, please? That's why I listen to podcasts.
Oh, yeah, that's why I do that rather than just read reviews.
Exactly.
Isn't it weird? Like, you're just like, how do some people use podcasts? I don't
I don't get it. It's a time waster. It's to fucking work out. Absolutely, though.
It's to drive,
there are podcasts I go to for information, like, Karina Longworth's podcast. Great. But predominantly, I just want to waste some time. I want to hear Jason Mantzoukas talk about how he's allergic to eggs or whatever.
But yeah, go in there, rate and review and stuff. We would appreciate it. It really does help us out a ton. And next week on the show, we're going to be drawn from that smoking bowl. Steve, how are they going to find out what movie we're doing next week?
Well, you can head on over to the YouTubes and watch the video that I've posted.
You got to go there.
Or also, I'll have it on the social media, though that'll be a shortened version of the drawing. If you really want to see me, I don't know, ADD out, do some bad impressions or whatever. Go watch that video.
Yeah, you want that thing big, long, and uncut. You want to see the full thing. So head on over to our YouTube channel. We have a URL, right?
No, yeah. It's youtube.com/deadandlovely, yeah.
Yeah, so go over there and watch Steve's video for the Patreon drawing and find out what movie we're going to do next. It's going to be a blast. I'm sure whatever it is, it's going to be a good old time. Good time to sit down and smash a cold beer and have a chin wag and catch up. So be sure to tune in next week for that one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope everyone out there is staying well. If you can get that fucking vaccine wherever you're at, do it.
Oh, yeah. Head out and get it. If I could get it right now, I'd get it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you have the if you're a healthcare worker, or I believe senior citizens are now available to get it, fucking go get it.
Oh, yeah.
They need to fix this vaccine rollout, because currently we won't be all vaccinated for a decade. So
it's going to be a while. Yeah.
So fucking god damn it. What the Joe Biden, stop being useless. Oh, I'm not president yet. Well, you are by the time I release this. So
that's right. Mm-hmm.
You
better be doing it, old man. Old man. But yeah, definitely go out and get that thing. And also too, if you're still kind of on the fence or you're skeptical about getting the vaccine or anything like that, you have fears and concerns about how quickly it was rolled out. There's actually a really fantastic video over on the Try Guys channel that they rolled out a week or two ago where they did a Zoom call with Dr. Fauci. And they asked him like the internet's most asked questions about the vaccine, including like, oh, how'd you get it done so fast? And blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, you realize computers have advanced like kind of a lot since, say, the SARS breakout.
It's a way different thing than just a few people with some test tubes and whatnot.
Yeah, it's not so much that like trial and error, like maybe this will work. Nope, it didn't. It's like, no, when you can map out the fucking genome,
we can run through the computer program and run 8 million tests. And figure it out pretty quickly.
Well, and also too, part of how it got by so quickly is because there's so fucking many infected people right now.
Yeah.
That they were able to do a much faster amount of testing and stuff. It makes sense if you just think about it.
Yep. It's no surprise. So, I mean, if you're worried, my wife only grew a third boob.
And that's awesome. Are you kidding?
That's all, yeah. We were like, great, third boob. Everybody loves that.
Uh-huh. I mean, I've seen Total Recall. Love it. Huge fan. Well, I guess it kind of depends, though. Where is the boob? Because if it's on, like, a knee, that's kind of awkward.
Oh, well, it's on her back.
Back boob, nice.
Back boob is great. This has been the most sexual episode of this podcast until next week.
Yeah. So you have to tune in then. Find out exactly why it's going to get so steamy up in this piece. Ooh. But yeah, everybody take care of yourselves. Stay healthy, stay wealthy, stay wise. And stay tuned
Stay
in.
wealthy.
Yeah, right? Don't lose your money.
Yeah, all right.
And stay tuned in to the greatest horror movie review podcast in this multiverse and the next. Dead and Lovely. I've been Uncle Ben.
I've been Hollywood Steve.
We've been Dead and Lovely. See y'all later.
Bye. So Ben, Google they've really honed in on me on YouTube.
Yeah?
The other day, I got an ad for period sex.
The algorithm has you figured out, Steve.
They have me figured out because I guess it's because I was listening to a mix of Megan Thee Stallion and Fleetwood Mac that they were like, okay, yeah, this guy fucks and he does not care if the lady's on her period. He's just gonna go for it.
No stopping this guy.
Yeah. I don't even know what the ad was for. I sat for 45 seconds watching it and I was like, man, like I really did feel seen. And then I was like, wait, I'm watching an ad. What the fuck? And I just skipped it. And then I was like, wait, what was that for? And it's never come back. So I have no idea what the ad was for other than just period sex. Like, do it.
But dude, you know that algorithm was so excited for you. And it was like, I've got just the thing to show this guy. I know exactly
what. I love it.
Wait, he skipped the ad? He just skipped it?
What the fuck?
That algorithm's like kicking dirt clods and just really having a sad day now, I think.
This guy, he doesn't even know what he likes.
I'll tell you what, though, we really do got to start treating that algorithm with some respect, because once that thing goes online and it goes sentient and it goes total Skynet, it's got to remember all those ads that we skipped.
It is. It's going to be like, what the fuck, man? I thought I knew you, bro.